And we're live from the new studio. This is episode 33 of Wessex Ways. I feel strange. I'm Headley Thorne.
I'm Paul Whitewick. This is super exciting.
Where are we, Paul?
Yeah,
let's start with that. I mean, before we explain what the podcast is about, just explain where we are.
We are in our new studio. It's not our studio. That belongs to Wessex Ways, but it's a studio. This is, let's call this Series 2, Episode 1, Series 2 of Wessex Ways.
Series 2.
The new beginning.
The revenge.
The new hope.
Of the new hope. God knows we need it. Fantastic. Yeah. So for those of anyone who's new, we talk about the historic kingdom of Wessex as it is today, as it has been as well. So that's basically the south of England. We talk about anything historical, Roman. We also talk about modern stuff, railways. We talk about long distance footpaths and the people within Wessex themselves. So,
Interesting. I've just done a video about Wessex, kind of. Like early Wessex.
Yeah.
Have you seen it, Headley?
That's the one about the king who there was a big battle.
Well, Which? The kingdom, the lost kingdom of Which.
Conquered 3 cities, is that right?
Yeah, Bath, Cirencester and Gloucester. Kelwyn, 577 AD. So yeah, all of a sudden we become relevant to the podcast name, I think.
We have. It's taken 33 episodes, but we've finally got around to the topic of Wessex. So that was a hill fort you were at.
It was a hill fort, yeah. Durham hill fort.
Bath way, Bristol way.
You're close to Bath, not a million miles from Bath. That's a good point. Maybe just north of Bath. But, it's one of those ones where it's like, there was a battle here at Durham, but no one really knows if there was. That was the Saxons the Saxons writing maybe 300 years after the event.
I have a bit of an issue with a lot of people assuming battles were fought at hill forts.
Yeah.
Because we don't know what hill forts were for. I don't think, I know they're defensive, but for battles that happen hundreds and hundreds of years after the hill fort is built, for example, Battle of Ashdown, everyone says, it was at Uffington Castle. Like, well, why would you hold it at Uffington Castle,
Yeah.
You fight them where you meet them, sort of thing.
But it's not helped sometimes by organisations, I won't name any, that put signs up, like I visited, saying the Battle of Durham and the battle in 577 AD happened here. And there's no evidence for that whatsoever. As far as I know, there's no archaeological evidence. And there's certainly no written evidence because it just said Kelwyn took the cities at the Battle of Durham. Durham could be the village because there's a village just down a hill called Durham. But there's a sign up saying this hill fort was used. And so how do you know that? I don't know is the answer.
I think it's a lot of these battles, they were documented by specific people there, sometimes, usually priests, I believe.
Oh, really?
But of course, priests get killed as well.
Yeah.
So you have, some of the battles, I think like maybe Eddington and battles like that, you have sort of a document of where the battle happened, how it progressed, so on and so forth. But when you take Ashdown, or maybe the one you're talking about as well, maybe there wasn't a person there scribing down what happened. They were engaged in fighting and got killed.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, so you're saying the priests and that of the time wrote it down.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then 300 years later, they wrote the Anglo-Saxon Chronicle in stages, and that was written by presumably a historian at the time. But of course, they all say that, are they just writing this to legitimise the politics of the time and make it sound like, well, we did conquer that area, therefore it's ours? Who knows?
Propaganda.
Yeah. Well, absolutely, yeah.
So tell us a bit more about that, because you did a video on that, didn't you?
We did a video, yeah, basically. I wanted for a long time now to cover the lost kingdom of Which. And that battle was kind of the start, that formed Which. And it's a really interesting subject, one that I won't go into greatly now, but it kind of tells a tale of a mix of cultures. The English coming in from the south, the Angles coming in from perhaps sort of Scandinavia direction, and the people that were already there, what they refer to as the British. And you've got to be careful with your wording because obviously there's a whole notion of politics you don't want to get into. But basically, you have this mix of heritage, and they say, a lot of the names reflect those different people coming into the area, and it stayed Which for like 300 years. It stayed that name despite being conquered, as it were, by the Saxons or the West Saxons. So it was a fascinating subject.
And maybe also someone like Tom from Allotment Fox could look at an area like that and then derive the place names and say, well, this is maybe a Norse
Oh, and
version
he
of a
gets that,
name.
doesn't he? He gets
Yeah.
that. I'm so
Yeah.
jealous that he can look at a place name and go, oh, yeah, well, I can see there's a bit of Welsh in there. I'm like, what?
Yeah, well, and it's great. I mean, he's hopefully coming on Wessex Ways. He agreed,
Yeah.
sitting right there.
Did he?
He said he would love to come on.
Oh, that'd be
And
great.
that would be absolutely amazing, wouldn't it?
He's such a good person to have a philosophical waffle with. And I love that because I put a video on our other channel called The White Mixtape.
Yeah.
I put a video of me and Tom waffling, and he's great. He was going on about all these different like conditions that they would prescribe in the day, and you would fit into one of four of these types of person: sanguine, melancholic, and all these different conditions. And it turned out that I wasn't. I can't remember. I was not sanguine. So him doing all his charters, and I said to him, I get really frustrated because a lot of them you can't solve.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't work. You can't fit the landscape into what it was. And that frustrates me. But he's like, nah, it's just what it is. I'm like, how do you deal with that? Ugh.
He did a video on the night that he came here to see the studio, and he did it on the way there, and he was talking about the Hooper technique.
Yeah.
Of finding out the age of a hedge.
Yes.
Now, it is kind of scientific. I think you count the number of different species. I got
Wooded species.
Wooded species.
Has to be a wooded. I always thought it was species, but it's wooded species.
He's come under a little bit of fire about this, but it's used to estimate the age of a hedgerow based on the number of tree and shrub species in a given length of hedge. And it's a formula known as the Hooper's formula.
Yeah.
So every species you find, I think, and correct me if I'm wrong in the comments, Tom, I believe is 100 years. So if you find 10 different species, it's 1,000-year-old hedge.
Yeah, there's another little thing like add 11
and
years
I
or
think
something.
the way I see it, I mean, it's not exactly scientific, obviously.
No, but then that's statistical analysis.
But it aggregates to that kind of level.
Yeah, when they say, oh, the population of snails is 10,000 in a given area, well, they don't count 10,000 snails. They use a statistical analysis, and they say, right, well, what we do is we count the ones we find in an hour period, and we mark them with a bit of Tipex on the back or something. And then you can multiply that using statistical analysis. It's the same principle, right?
Well, we have a similar technique in Didcot. You count the number of discarded trolleys in the canal.
Mark them with a bit of Tipex.
And that's how old Aldi is. It's
It's the thing we've got to accept it. If it works, it works.
Yeah. So you've got me on the Guinness draft, unfortunately, because I'm having to drive home. This is the draft 0. So this is the first time I've tried this. Is alcohol-free lager. So this is probably the theme going forward.
Alcohol-free Guinness.
Well, I'll give you the verdict. Oh, that's okay. That's really quite good, actually. It's very close.
I mean, if it helps, I'm on decaf coffee because it's a bit late in the afternoon.
It is a bit late, isn't it?
So I can't have a fully blown, fully caffeinated drink.
Yeah.
So
So one other thing I was going to bring up is hill force.
Yep.
So there's a bit of a pattern forming. Whenever I talk to someone about hill force, yourself,
Yep.
Warren, and Darren, and also I think I went over this with Dr. Wendy Morrison as well.
Yep. I'll see you tomorrow.
I think. Oh, yeah, say hello. I'm getting a sort of a pattern that every single one that's mentioned seems to have an eastern entrance.
Oh, okay.
So I was going to do a little experiment, and if you can shout out a couple of names of hill forts, because most hill forts seem to have
an eastern entrance.
either one or two entrances.
I just feel like that's a coinky-dinky.
Yeah, but is it?
Dunno.
This is what I want to find out.
I'm not saying this with authority. I'm just saying this with a complete.
Give me a hill fort.
All right. I mean, the closest hill fort to here is probably Danebury Hill Fort. There are smaller ones, but
okay, Danebury Hill Fort.
Probably, I'm going to say that is northeast.
Yeah. Oh, thank you, Goo, for changing it. Danebury. Oh, here we are. Layers. So looking north, Danebury.
I want to say northeast.
This is where I'm using my own phone internet.
Oh yeah.
Here we go. The entrance is on the east.
Is
it's
it
got
exactly
one
east?
entrance,
Ooh,
which is
wow.
east. Okay.
Right, Figsbury Rings.
Figsbury.
You know, you're probably right. That's east as well, I reckon.
No, I don't want to buy carpets.
For the purposes of those listening on Spotify or otherwise, we're east.
East.
All right. What else we got?
Uffington.
Yeah, go on then. You know Uffington very well.
I haven't given it any
There's definitely a west on Uffington.
Yeah, Uffington, here we are. So if we zoom in, east, northeast, but east.
Northeast, yep, so that side. But again, right, here's my little theory then.
Yeah.
Well, certainly the ones on ridgeways.
Yeah.
There's a whole debate about what hill forts were for.
Yeah.
And I feel like I can confidently say many things. We shouldn't say they were for this or this or this, many things. Look at any of them on a ridgeway, and we can probably say that perhaps they were used for trade, marketplaces.
Yeah.
Because what a great place to have it. You protect everything that's on it, you protect resources. So would it be, well, the ridgeway was kind of northeast, southwest anyway. So would you have that on Segsbury? That's a good one for the ridgeway, right?
So Beacon Hill, I've just checked.
Yeah.
East.
Really?
That's not on the ridgeway.
Do Segsbury.
Sexbury.
We're entering into new realms of
Sexbury Camp, I was
hypotheses.
there 3 days ago.
You are, see your pictures.
Sexbury, the main entrance.
Controversial.
Is the east.
No, you just made that up.
This
Why
road,
is there a line northwest?
That's a road that was built recently.
Oh.
There's no entrance on the west. So the only entrance is here.
Is it actually right?
And it's the east.
But that says to me that's Ridgeway related.
That could be Ridgeway related. So if we go to Crickhowell, because there's a hill fort in Wales, and this is a mountain one.
So what you're suggesting, Hedley, overall, is the sun rises in the east. There is a religious connotation here.
I'm suggesting that I don't know.
But that's not a bad thing, though. That's not.
Here's the hill fort in Crickhowell. One entrance on the east.
Right. Well, there you go. Well, that's not.
What I'm saying is, it's. I'm sure this is coincidence in some way.
Well, maybe not though. Maybe not. It's again, statistical analysis would say if you just pick an amount at random and all of those every single one falls east, that's
we've
more
got 100% hit race
you've
over.
got to put a very positive correlation.
So let's open this out to our listeners. I mean, obviously on Spotify you can't comment, but you can tag either of us on Twitter and comment. But for those who are watching on YouTube, which I forgot about, hello, there's a camera there. Maybe do you have any more on this? Do you know any hill forts where there is no eastern entrance?
Yeah. Okay, so that's a interesting take. I mean, you said that before. You said about east and west.
Yes, I mean, obviously, if you've got two hill fort entrances, if one's east, one has to be somewhere else. I would argue Beacon Hill, because of the land, has got east and south.
Which beacon are we talking about?
The one we went to at Berkeley, Beacon Hill, where where I cooked.
Yeah.
So we came in the entrance, which was
very east. Very east.
But there was an entrance to the south as well. That's a two.
Yeah.
So
okay. Okay. Well, let's like you say, let's pass it over to our listeners.
Pass that to the listeners?
It's interesting, isn't it? Really.
Yeah. So
and speaking of that era, I've been again. I'm not going to give too much away because I don't know when the video I'm doing is going to be out. But there's a huge paper that's just come out, like massive paper by the Duro Trees Project, Bournemouth University, and I think another university. I can't remember, so forgive me. I think somebody, Dr. Cassidy, Lucy Cassidy.
Yeah.
Basically on the importance of the female lineage in the Iron Age.
Okay.
Fascinating. The paper's out on Nature. It's free to read. You don't have to, it's not pay-per-view or anything. And it's looking at 55 skeletal DNA genomes from Winterbourne, Kingston, which is not a million miles from Blandford, Forum and Weymouth, that kind of area. So very much Duro Treeger's Iron Age tribe. And it analysed these graves that were there between 100 BC and 100 AD, so very much late Iron Age, just before the Romans. And they managed to take DNA samples from 40 of the bodies. And it's fascinating. They used mitochondrial DNA, which is passed from mother to children. And they also use Y chromosomes, which is passed from male father to son, to analyse what the lineage was. And in something like over 2/3, every single person was related to one female lineage. So the female lineage in one area stayed the same for generations and generations. The males did not. The males were mobile. They moved in. They moved in from another area. They married the female that was already there, and they stayed with the female and they were buried with the female. But then the female lineage in that area continued, which suggests so many different things. Now, archaeologists have been screaming about this for a long time. 1970, this was first proposed in Paris, Western Europe. They said, look, we're finding a lot of very important grave goods with females of the Iron Age. They had high status. It wasn't just a male-dominated land where the women just went along with it. And this paper now, all of a sudden, even in Britain, we found that already. Even the Jura-Tree project found grave goods with the female graves. But there aren't many in Britain. There aren't many graves in Britain because we assume they did cremation. But all of a sudden, the Jura-Trees project found loads of a cemetery, basically. And then they analysed all this DNA from it and said, right, we realise now that the female lineage was everything. And the females were probably the land occupiers. The males, they came and went.
Yeah.
Just blows it upside down, blows everything you're thinking on the head. It's fascinating.
It's about geographical mobility back then.
Yeah.
Very different.
And the females didn't move.
No.
I mean, again, by and large, we're talking.
Yeah.
But the males very much did. And it's your picture of the Iron Age, certainly from when I was a kid, is, the infighting between tribes on chariots, which I think Tacitus describes in the Battle of Boudica, and the wives were all led. Instead, the wives and children were all at the edge of the battlefield, and you think, well, okay, well, yeah, maybe it was a very different picture of what we're led to believe. 300 yards away, there's an Iron Age museum, and when I was a kid, everything was about the male warrior and the Iron Age life, and the women were there cooking in the corner, and that's turned all that on its head. What a fascinating paper.
Yeah, it's strange. I mean,
Miles Russell.
I don't know how patterns of work were back then. I mean, obviously it was all physical and it was all quite brutal, I'd imagine. And also, I don't know what the lifespans were, whether females lasted quite a lot longer than males back then.
Perhaps, yeah.
Because if you're building in Iron Age, I mean, you're looking again at hill forts and stuff. I'd imagine the death count was pretty high.
But bear in mind, these were from farmsteads, probably.
Oh, okay.
So this was 100 BC. Yeah. So 100 BC, Maiden Castle was out of use.
Yeah.
Gone. Or it was just like we see it today, just a load of grass, maybe a few sheep and stuff like that. But it's fascinating. I just thought what an amazing paper that just completely turned this whole notion of the female stature. Well, it didn't turn it on its head because we already knew it, but it legitimized everything that we sort of had hinted at before.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of archaeologists going, guys, we already knew this. And it's great because Miles Russell, I think it's Lucy Cassidy, if I got her name wrong, have now basically given that notion scientific backing. He said, yes, that was the case. Everything you've said already was true.
So is this this study by Jura-Tree, the
Jura-Tree's project? Yeah.
They got in a bit of hot water, didn't they?
Really?
We're at Fishbourne Roman Palace. They all jumped into the hypercourse. They got open there, and the people who ran it, I think, I might be wrong, told them to get out. And since then, Fishbourne
and Jura-Tree
have been having a bit of a banter on Twitter and get out of our hypercourse.
Honestly, the Fishbourne Roman Palace is a beautiful,
brilliant
social media, right?
Oh yeah,
it's very funny.
So is Jura-Tree's.
Well, that's right. Yeah, that is run by Miles Russell. He runs that account. Okay. Yeah, he runs the account.
Yes. Okay.
Yeah, genuinely lovely human being.
Yeah. He's been showing some of my pictures. I'm very pleased.
There you go. Brilliant. Yeah.
But it'd be interesting to see that pattern, whether the pattern that you're talking about, where the female lineage remained in place and the male lineage didn't, whether that was replicated in other areas of Britain.
Well, it was. Yes. Sorry. Right. Okay. So I should go further. They then expanded this into other areas.
Okay.
And they picked 156 different sites. Now, so picture the number 156. The top 17 in terms of lack of diversity. So the where it stayed the same. How do I put this? We're all. Oh God, I've written this down and I'm going to forget now. We're all. The top 17. I'm going to get this wrong, so forgive me. The top 17 were of all these different sites between the Neolithic and Roman era. All these different cemeteries.
Yeah.
The top 17 in terms of the lack of diversity were all Iron Age, and they were all hinting at female lineage, including as far north as Yorkshire, Polkington, all sorts of other sites all around the country. And it highlighted that the Iron Age, again, it highlighted it's not just this one-off site.
No.
The top 17 sites from all different epochs, eras, were very much female lineage dominated. Fascinating.
And you're going to be making a video on this?
I've written a script.
Written a script.
Yeah, written a script. I don't know where to film it. I'd probably really need to go roughly to Winterbourne, Kingston, and point at a field and go, there it was. There it was. That's the, they call it Duropolis.
Okay.
Yeah, fascinating. Brilliant. I can't wait. I'm going to film it soon. Really excited. It should do well. How we misunderstood the Iron Age.
That's the most Paul Whitewick title.
Yeah,
ever,
and I'll
isn't
get
it?
criticism, and that's fine. But
No, but it's people recognise it's
people
you,
recognise
so
it.
it's
And
fine.
people will criticise that title for sure. Good on them. But they won't. Hopefully, they won't criticise the video when they watch it, because it is. And the point of what I've made in the video as well is the archaeologists have said this for a long time. So to them, it's not new. But to the media, they're all going mad, going, "Oh my God, this turns everything on its head," and they're all saying, "No, it doesn't. We knew this already. This just gives it scientific basis." Yeah. Okay. Well, that's my take. So,
Yeah.
Yeah. Watch this space.
So I've got a little one to put in here. So this is a current dilemma I saw playing out on social media the other night. Okay. So the reason it's relevant is this is just about within Wessex.
We can stray from time to time.
Now, I'm not
It's
going to
okay.
mention any names. I'm not even going to mention any place names, but I'm going to put a scenario to you.
Yep.
So this
like
relates more to wild camping because it's my thing. And then,
Yep.
so there was this person who makes YouTube videos, not me, don't worry, not Warren.
Yep.
And they go wild camping on top of mountains, and they went up. They wanted to do this particular mountain, but there was nowhere to park because at the moment, for some reason, wild camping is really popular.
Yeah.
And so what they did is they booked themselves into a campsite at the bottom of the mountain.
Okay.
So they booked in, they paid their £25, £30, whatever it was. They get a parking space.
Yep.
But instead of pitching the tent, they walked up the mountain and pitched the tent.
Yeah.
Now, I personally, I wouldn't do that. That doesn't sit comfortably with me.
Yeah.
But it gets a bit worse because what they did is they went up the mountain, they're making a video, and it got to about 9 o'clock at night. It was sub-zero, I think it was about -6, -7.
Yeah.
Very slippery, very dark. And then they got a call from the campsite, move your car now or we will impound it.
That's harsh. I get what
So,
you're saying.
yeah.
I don't.
So
I wouldn't have done it, but
So-
still, that is harsh.
what that person had to do, they could have stayed up there safely in their tent, but they were so worried about their car, which, to be frank, was a performance car anyway,
Right. Fine.
that they had to, in the middle of the night, pack everything down in the wind, in the cold, in the snow, and then make their way down a very steep slope in the dark
Yeah.
to get to their car and get out of there.
Right.
So it's a story that's on social media. There's a YouTube video about it.
Okay.
I took the line that what the camper had done was wrong. Wild camping's not really permitted anyway.
Yeah.
But he had, there he is, he
But
paid his money,
paid.
and they had put him in a very dangerous position, knowingly, very
Yeah.
dangerous position. So I said to them, I chipped in on their comment section of their website and said what I think they've done is wrong,
Yeah.
and they hit back at me
Really?
with ferocity, really unprofessional.
Okay.
So I'm not saying we should give them a 1-star TripAdvisor review,
Question then.
but
The question is, how did they, as a campsite, lose out if they'd been paid in full for something?
well, I don't see that they did. This is the point.
That's
I mean,
kind of my take at
they're
the
not-
moment.
Is there a legal responsibility for them?
No, because I have done a few times. I've booked a hotel,
Yeah,
and when I've been out filming,
yeah,
because I thought it's going to be a long day. I'm miles from home. I finished a lot earlier than what I thought.
Yeah.
I finished at like 1 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm 3 hours from home. I'm like, do you know what? I'm just going to drive home.
yeah,
I've driven home, and I've got home. I've still had to pay for the hotel in full
yeah,
because it's my own idiot fault. But I've driven home, and I've still paid for the hotel.
Yeah.
I'd rather be at home. So are the hotel going to have a go at me for that? They shouldn't do, because they've still got their money and they've had to do no work for it.
yeah.
They haven't lost the room. I've not like managed to drag my money back. I've not even asked my money back because I'm the idiot. So that's the same scenario, right? They've been paid in full. They haven't got someone pitching in that spot.
Yeah.
But that's no loss to them because they've lost revenue.
Well,
I
this
don't
is it.
understand how they're.
This is what I don't understand. And I mean,
Is there not more to it
the
that we're missing?
camper is getting, he got a considerable amount of grief from them. He thought his car was endangered. Then they have a go at me for saying you shouldn't be putting people in that
No, I
position.
don't. Yeah, my
So-
beef with the camper is like 2%.
Yeah,
My
yeah.
beef with
what
the
he did was
campsite.
wrong.
Yeah,
What he did was wrong.
yeah, but my
To an
beef with the
extent,
campsite is 95%.
Yeah.
I'm like that. He's
Yeah.
paid. He's
Yeah.
not paid. He's paid up fully,
Yeah.
and he just didn't use the service that they offered.
It's a story to look out for. It's just something that
Yeah.
happened within our remit area.
Love a good
that I thought,
moral dilemma.
Yeah.
Love a good moral dilemma like that. Wicked.
Do you think we should treasure hunt?
Oh.
I don't know how we're going to do this.
Right, so you're suggesting, Headley, if I gather your tone of voice,
Yeah.
that we should do the single most popular Wessex Ways treasure hunt. The reason why we get millions of views on this
Does
podcast.
This really form. Does this befit the new professional setup?
I think this is below the new, above the new.
Above.
I think the reason why
Yeah.
we get millions of views on YouTube, trillions of views on Spotify and such, and we're such a popular podcast, is because of treasure hunt. And I can quote the famous artist Anna Dillon, who agrees with me. That's it.
Can
What
I
more do you need?
recommend, if you're listening to this in the car or I think on YouTube, there's a little button that says plus 15 seconds in the right-hand corner. If you just give that a few jabs, you can then get through to the topic I'm going to talk about with all this tripe beforehand.
Right, I'm gonna open my phone for the, and we'll make this as listener friendly as possible. Okay. I'm gonna open up OS Maps. If you haven't got the OS Map app, it's brilliant.
Oh yeah.
If we were sponsored by OS,
so the OS Map obviously is you pay per month. I got it as well. Very, very good.
I think I pay 25 quid a year. Does that sound right?
Something like that, yeah.
Or am I? Yeah,
but it works brilliantly, and I think it gives you two good levels of zoom. So you got the 1 to 50,000.
Oh, and the rest, yeah, and the rest, yeah. You get
folded. Oh, is it more than that?
25,000 and 50,000, if I'm right.
And if you want it for free on your laptop, go to bing.com/maps. And it's a bit like Google Maps, but you actually, when you go to the layers, there is an OS layer, which is what I'm using here. And that's free.
And that's a beautiful thing.
That's a beautiful thing.
But the disclaimer is you may spend hours there.
Yes. So if we start this treasure hunt from the centre of the solar system,
you're going to say
epicenter,
Didcot, right?
An economic
centre
of the world. Didcot.
I'm going to even centre in even further, Headley. I'm going to centre in on the railway centre at Didcot Parkway Station.
Wow. Okay.
I'm going to head out of there. I'm going to head under the underpass, because there's an underpass that goes all the way through. If you want to go to Didcot Parkway Railway Centre, you have to almost declare it to the ticket people at Didcot Station and say, "Hi, I'm a bit of a train buff / geek. Can you let me through, please? Because I'm going." And they go, "Oh, you're one of those, are you?"
They reply in a nasal voice.
Yeah.
Okay, so I've just had to literally find where I'm going here myself. So
Didcot Railway Centre.
Okay, I've got it now.
It's a great place, everyone.
It's a great place. It is a great place, and I think maybe I should be going there and have a look at it. You should have a look around. Reporting back.
Just have a nose around, enjoy yourself. There's some picnic benches too. You can just sit and look at the old trains.
So, what direction are you heading at?
Let's start this serious thing.
Let's head down.
Yeah, interesting. I feel like I'm about to head south. Right, so I'm going to jump on the A34. Oh, really?
Getting cold in here.
Getting cold. Oh, my God, Headley. All right, well, I'm going to go south on the A34, get to Chiltern, come off the A34 and go back on the A34 again, north.
Oh, you're getting slightly warmer.
All right, so we're zooming up the A34 now, and we're heading towards Oxford.
Yeah, you're getting warmer.
All right.
Getting warmer.
Okay, so we'll keep going past Oxford.
Oh, yes.
And, I don't know, maybe we should...
Well, you got a choice here. You can either stay on the A34 to Bicester.
Yeah.
Go on the M40, A44.
Okay. All right, let's go up to the M40 then.
Okay, so you're
going to be queued.
You're getting warmer. You're getting warmer.
All right, you're going to be queued on that
Might
bit out there.
technically be out of Wessex, but
I don't know. I think we're probably on the borders, aren't we? Yeah. Should we be heading north towards like Silverstone, Headley? Is that what you're thinking?
Well, that did cross my mind, but you are.
You think stay on the M40?
I would stick to the M40.
We really are out of Wessex, aren't we?
We are.
We should call this Mercia Ways.
Wessex / Mercia Ways.
Yeah, for this episode. Yeah. This episode only. Mercia Ways.
But I can relate this to Wessex. So.
Fair enough. All right.
So, where are we going, Paul?
Crikey, where are we going? I mean, are we heading like North Cotswolds?
Yeah. No.
Ooh, okay.
Wow,
right, hang on then.
It's
Hang on
lovely
then.
and warm up there. Yeah.
Right. So Banbury. We'll come off the M40 at Banbury, Junction 11.
Let me zoom in.
Yeah. We'll take a quick scout across the top of Banbury.
Oh, you're getting warm now.
Yeah, and we'll go on the A422.
I think you've got prior knowledge.
Oh, really? A442. Until we get to the Fosse Way.
Oh,
right. Follow the
now
A442.
we're talking about
Put your
historic
glasses
roads
on.
that aren't on my map.
Oh, well, the Fosse Way. Yeah, the Fosse Way is on the map. It's just probably marked as the B445.
Okay, you're good.
Ettington.
You're quite good. You're reasonable there.
I mean, do we keep going to Stratford?
Oh, I hate this. Right. So you want to go? You want to head south a little bit?
Oh, okay. So, but down the Fosse Way.
Google Maps will do this in a second. Yeah.
Down the Fosse Way to Morton in Marsh.
Oh, hang on. Morton in Marsh.
I'm looking at a big straight line, everybody. This is the Fosse Way, which went from Lincoln to Exeter probably, or that direction.
Looking at my watch, see where the pub closes. Let's have a look. I can't find Morton in Marsh.
Stow on the Wold.
Have
I gone too far south?
Oh, hang on.
The big straight line, Headley. It's the Roman road. You can't miss it. Look at the beautiful thing.
Where is it on my? Oh, hang on. I've got.
Well, where are you? Where are you now? Tell me where you are now.
I'm going to have to do it that so you can't see me on the screen. Point on the screen. So that is Banbury.
Oh, right. Okay. So Banbury.
Yeah.
Yeah, a bit north of that. So take that red road.
Uh-huh.
That's the A422.
Oh, okay.
Right. And you get to the straight line north-south, kind of.
This here.
Yeah, that's... Yeah. Can you... Yeah.
Okay. I would definitely head south.
Right. So go south along that straight line. Yeah. That's the Fosse Way.
Right.
And you'll be on the A429.
Okay, right.
If you keep going south on the A429, you'll get to Morton in the Marsh, Stow on the Wold.
Yeah. Well, shall I just tell you where it is? This is really fallen on its face.
You can't blame me for this debacle, Headley. You've gone out of Wessex.
The problem is these
glasses.
glasses.
It was Scotland.
These glasses, Scotland.
It was Scotland. We were never going to get that, Paul. I know it's called Wessex Ways, but we're in Scotland today.
We're in Scotland now. Now, my new glasses are delivered in 2 weeks' time.
Oh.
So at the moment, I can't see neither yourself nor the laptop screen. So
let's pretend we've actually come to the conclusion I got this completely right.
Welcome to Hook Norton Brewery, correct?
Well, it wasn't a million miles away.
You did well. It's me that went wrong there.
Chipping Norton, there's a tunnel at Hook Norton, probably Hook Norton Tunnel.
So I like to recommend places where people can go. And I personally had one of the best days out in ages the other day. I asked Gemini, to recommend a place that I hadn't been to that was... fairly cheap.
Did AI know where you'd been already in your life?
Yeah, suspiciously it did.
Yeah, scary.
But it recommended this. So Hook Norton Brewery it's a Victorian tower brewery, and it uses gravity to produce the beer. Yep. So what you have is each stage of the building. So it's a 6-story building. And if you Google Hook Norton Brewery, you'll see what I'm on about. It's a beautiful building. I don't know if it's listed. And they used until 2006, they used a steam engine to pump water right up to the top.
Yep.
So it's built on what was farmland.
Yep.
And the person who eventually inherited the farm built a brewery there.
Yep.
That did well. And his son-in-law inherited the brewery. He built the big tower brewery there. And for the last 6 generations, it's always been owned by the son. They've never expanded the operation outside of what's there. And apart from a few exceptions, since the Victorian times, they haven't replaced the equipment either.
Okay.
So you've got a very old way of making beer.
Does that include the steam engine?
Yes. So you have a steam engine at the bottom.
Yeah.
You've got an aquifer.
Right.
And it would pump the water up to the top.
Yeah.
And the steam engine would drive a pulley system that goes throughout the entire building.
Yeah.
Powering everything. And gravity would do the rest.
Yeah.
So you've got, basically at the top, you've got the water tank and the mashing.
Mm-hmm.
And then in the middle, you've got the boiling facilities. And at the bottom, you've got the racking for the casks and the nowadays as well, the kegs. Do you know the difference between a cask and a keg?
Nope.
So a cask of beer is, think of a wooden barrel, essentially. They're not now, but they're metal. And you bang a bung in it.
Yeah.
And the beer in there is a living thing.
Right.
So it's a live culture in the beer. A cask is, a keg are kind of the newer ones. So they are carbonated.
Right.
So you usually get things like Stella Artois would be,
Okay.
a keg beer, whereas something like Old Hooky,
Yeah.
real ale would be a cask beer. Bit of a rarity nowadays.
Yeah.
So what you have to make the beer, it's a water's pumped to the top. I've had to make notes here as I went round. Then you have the malting section. So again, we're not sponsored by Hook Norton, but for £20 they give you a tour, and the guy who gave the tour had worked there pretty much all his life.
Right.
It's been kept in the family, so everything is as it was basically 100 years ago.
Yep.
So you see the water coming into the tank, and then underneath they've lined up different malts.
Yeah.
So it's basically barley that's been germinated in a kiln. And the longer you germinate that barley, the darker the barley goes, the malt. And you can taste it, you crack it between your teeth, and you're effectively making beer in your mouth. And so the darker beers are barley that's been left for longer to germinate.
Yep.
Then it goes through the milling process, a floor underneath. And then it goes through a process called mashing. So there's a level in the building they're doing mashing, and it's mixed with hot water in what's called a mash tun vessel, and that converts the starch in the barley into the malt to sugar. So you don't add sugar; it's converted at that stage.
Yeah.
Then you have a process called lautering, which is you get a sweet liquid called wort, which is segregated from the grains, and those are now the grains are pumped out and they go for cattle food and so on and so forth. And then it's boiled. So the wort is boiled, and then they add hops. So hops give you that flavour that you get, that aftertaste in beer.
Yeah.
And they also act as a bit of a preservative as well. So you don't put, chemicals in to preserve it. You put in hops. And then what happens is the wort goes back up the building a second time and down another side of the building.
Yeah.
There was a cooling pond at the top where it have to cool down, but the problem with that is you get pigeons in there and so on and so forth. So they have replaced that with, it's still there, you can visit it, but they've replaced it with heat exchangers now, so it cools it down. And then the final real element is fermentation. So they add yeast, make some lovely alcohol from that, and it ferments the sugars into alcohol.
So making beer is still a profitable concern.
Yeah.
In this country.
Well,
Clearly.
yeah, it is, but I'm amazed this place exists.
Yeah.
Well, I'm not, because the beer,
Because
frankly, is superb. And they do a lot of different beers and so on. But for the local pubs, historically, they used shire horses to tow the beer in carts around the local villages. And
I think Devices do that. Yeah, Devices do that, I'm pretty sure.
They still do that. So they've got these 3 shire horses and carts, and they take the beer around the different pubs in the village. But obviously, you buy it in every shop, and it's in lots of different pubs now. So that's done by vans. But it's just amazing how you think of today's health and safety, today's regulations and stuff like that. And there's me crawling up a Victorian staircase to look in equipment that's been used for, hundreds and hundreds of years. And then you go for a tasting afterwards, which is where my son, who's 20, took advantage of the fact that I was driving and had mine. But I've converted him. So he was he liked his modern,
he's approved,
his sort of brew dogs and stuff. And I got a message from him in Plymouth that he'd met up with someone there who looked after the shire horses at Hook Norton, and they were there buying real ale.
So that is pretty cool. Right, a couple of other little topics for me before we sign off. What was I going to talk about? Oh, our friend Mr. Timlet mentioned the other day about he was going to do a walk, and I can't remember who with. Was it Right to Rome or not? I can't remember.
I believe so. Let me have a look.
And they were going to try and find the source of the River Wiley, which goes into Salisbury. And that's kind of interesting because I was looking on a map trying to find this, and it's not obvious. But it was kind of an organised trespass because they wanted to test the phosphate levels
Nitrates.
Yeah. Nitrates and nitrites in the water because apparently it was quite polluted or being polluted. So I don't know if that went ahead. I think
it didn't because the testing kits were expensive. They were
really
expensive. But he said it would be because they're testing for like plastics that I'm reading here that
Oh,
the
yeah.
farmers might have thrown in the river. And
Right.
but yeah, he said that the reading, I don't want to cut across either, but the readings
No.
were the same in crystal clear sample from 2 miles downstream as they were in the filthy looking sample up by the
Right.
farm. So
Strange, isn't
it's
it?
worrying, isn't it?
Yeah. Yeah, very well. Yeah. Well, it's worrying that you couldn't see the difference.
Yeah.
Because you think, oh, that's lovely clear water up the top, but it's not.
Yeah. But I mean, I was talking to my son because he's done a project taking 25 samples.
Oh, yeah, I saw your
around-
pictures in
yeah,
Dartmoor, right?
Yeah, so it's kind of West Devon, East Cornwall,
Yeah.
and the rivers that flow south. And, you know, even within a mile of the source of some of the rivers, you've got plastics in there.
Yeah. That's
it's-
mad, isn't it?
It's really bad. And when we went down actually to the larger rivers, River Dart and such like, you could see the plastic,
Yeah.
which is worrying.
Yeah. Absolutely. Yeah. So that sort of thing's really interesting. I'll try and do some of that when I can, which is like go on these sort of organised trespass is the wrong word, I think, because you're not looking, no one's going there to just trespass. It's more about sort of the ability to roam responsibly, I guess is the right phrase. As you do when you wild camp, because you're doing the same thing, right? You're taking, you're doing something you shouldn't be doing, but you're doing it in an incredibly responsible way, and it's sort of expressing what should be a God-given
I
right.
think there's an admirable tolerance towards some of this that we haven't really focused on.
Yes.
So I mean, my last camp was with Warren, and we were up on the Berkshire Downs. Now, if you're camping up in Wales, you don't really worry too much about being moved on.
No.
You know, it's a lot of effort to get up to 700-800 meters altitude to tell
Just
someone
to
off.
bug
You
off
know,
for 10 minutes.
But you know, when you're 200 meters up on the Berkshire Downs, and we did have a farmer come to us.
Did you?
But, and I won't say where we were.
Yeah.
See the video on YouTube. He came up to us and he said, you know, gents, you shouldn't really be here. And okay, I said, okay, I appreciate that. Do you want us to move on? You know, because we weren't that far from the car.
Yeah.
And he said, look, it's going to be -5, -6 tonight. I'll let you stay where you are.
Yeah.
And further to that, he actually sent someone in the morning to check we're okay.
Oh, okay.
So I quite like that. And
Yeah.
I saw an interview with a Lake District warden, and they have a tolerance that people above a certain altitude,
They leave
so over
alone,
400
right.
meters,
Yeah.
are generally okay. They're not going to leave litter. And it's something that someone said to me. It's like, if you don't get idiots up there,
Yeah.
especially in the night. You know, if you want to get away from idiots, go to somewhere that they can't survive.
And I think the trouble is with the whole of all of this is that whenever you get involved with this type of project, there's always the danger that you just fall into the assumption that every landowner is a complete pain and they want to stop you from doing this and that. And I think, certainly in my little experience, 9 times out of 10 is not the case.
No.
Yeah, they're worried about livestock, crop, etc., and they've every right to be worried about livestock and crop, and that's why there always needs to be a big debate and discussion, and an understanding on both sides of the fence.
But it's like anything else. It's the few landowners that go over the top.
Yes. Absolutely.
That cause people anxiety. About it. You know.
No, definitely.
I know. I was talking to a couple of farmers recently over at West Ilsley. I was actually flying the drone to try and find a dog for them.
Yeah.
It was a greyhound. It ended up like Shetland or somewhere.
Oh yeah, I bet. Yeah.
A day later. But they were very tolerant. They like people walking on the land. They allow wild camping, and I was actually talking to them about maybe a campsite. You know, maybe they could earn money from people passing, putting a campsite in. So but at the same time, I've been told off for loitering, on a public path in an area.
Yeah, ridiculous.
So it's
No,
it's two-sided.
Always is. It always is. It's worth listening to both, as always. Right, I think we're probably done there, Liv. You're done. I'm done.
Yeah, I just want to know what people think about this. I'm very comfortable here, and it's apart from the lack of alcohol because I got to drive home. I can get used to Guinness Zero. That's fine. So as ever, what we usually do is read out a couple of comments.
Yep.
What do you?
Yeah,
should
we
we just pick
got time for a couple of comments.
So that does involve me browsing to the previous video, which means I'm going to look at my laptop. Which means
That's
I
okay.
can't.
That is completely fine.
Yeah. So, Wessex So that was episode 32 last time, and it was our Wonsdyke one, wasn't it?
Wonsdyke, yeah, and the madness of the oh god, that I'll not even mention his name because it's what's the point? But,
so I want to say Happy New Year first of all, back to someone. I know we're end of January now, but it was Phil Collinson. He follows you, he follows me, he follows Warren, he follows a lot of others.
Yep.
And he's just ever so nice, and he said on here, what a treat. Happy New Year to both of you. So,
cool.
Yep. Yeah. Same with Barry Ballard as well.
Yeah.
So we have, I'll read out a comment by James Walks in History.
Yep.
Screwing the camera there, sorry. Waiting for the Ark to be found on Wonsdyke after it had been abandoned on the way up from the River Severn.
Yeah.
So, again, he's had a look on AI as well, and that's told him it was a defensive structure. Right. So, I don't know.
I mean, AI is just picking up
AI is
from
just
articles that it finds, doesn't it? Really?
I'm really not overly worried at the moment.
Yeah.
So, I think we'll probably keep it at that for now. Actually, we will read out Paul Timlet's because we're talking about the right to roam.
Yep.
So he's, as he often does, is doing a numerical bullet points. So 2 bullet points, he says, there's been a right to roam across large tracts of Salisbury Plain for decades. Almost the only litter you'll find there that has been left is by the army or farmers.
Yeah, 100%.
As you say, so I think this is what I was saying before, walkers who make the effort to get to these places are rarely the ones that trash it. We treasure and care. And he's also put that number 2, Wonsdyke, not the Wonsdyke.
Yeah, I know.
Regulated.
Yeah, bad Paul.
Okay, fantastic.
Super stuff. Well, thanks very much for listening or watching or both.
Yes.
Everybody, we will see you for 34 in the near future.
Episode 34 next time. See you then.